You are listening to The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending. Welcome back. I'm your host, Andrea Spearman, and this is The Black Landscape, where we engage with emerging and established Black leaders here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am a light-skinned Black woman with my dark brown curly hair currently in 2-strand twists up in 2 space buns. I am wearing black and brown glasses and a red and white peppermint striped kind of long sleeve shirt today. Today we are here with Ezra Myles. Hey, Ezra.
Hey, Andrea. How you doing today?
Great. We're so glad to have you here. Please describe yourself to our listeners.
Wonderful. I am a brown-skinned African-American young man with long dark brown dreadlocks that go down to my shoulder. Today I'm wearing a beige long sleeve shirt, and I have some light spots of vitiligo around my chin.
Awesome. So, Ezra, you're in the Bay Area now, but you grew up in New York, right?
New Jersey, actually.
Yes, Jersey. Come on, Jersey.
You already know. Yeah.
So what was that like?
So growing up in New Jersey, my family, most of my family is from New Jersey and lives in New Jersey, but I have roots all the way up and down the East Coast. And I spent the first couple of years in public school, but most of my education in my career, which kind of defined my experience in New Jersey, was in private schools. And that is important because even though my parents were always really intentional and really valued me learning about my history and being proud of being a Black man and what that comes with, both the history and also the discrimination, the oppression, the history of that. Because I spent most of my time in spaces of predominantly white people, that meant that I had to develop the tools to navigate two different worlds, so to speak. You know, growing up in Newark, New Jersey, it's predominantly Black. It's a Black city. I mean, it's changing now, but at the time growing up, it was a very Black city. And so to be going up the hill, going up the road to interact with a completely different environment where people just saw me as the token Black kid, meant that I had to develop new tools for survival.
I did not know that part of New Jersey was mainly Black.
Newark has been a very Black city since after the 1969 riots. After Martin Luther King was killed and there was violence, so similar to around the same time as the LA riots, the Watts riots, Newark, and up until that point, was, like most urban centers, predominantly white, and the riots accelerated white flight. And so the neighborhood I grew up in, Weequahic section in the South Ward, had a large Jewish community up until the riots. And then from there, it was a very Black city. I mean, very diverse. Newark, is being part of the tri-state area with New York and everything, is one of the most diverse regions, I would say. And I think what made my experience growing up really special is that not that I was just Black, but that I grew up Black around the diaspora. Portuguese communities, Caribbean communities, Jamaican, Haitian, Trinidadian, Puerto Rican, Colombian. There was so many different communities of people of color. And so it was like there was always this kind of distortion between going 30 minutes up the road when I was in middle school and high school and being one of 9 Black kids in my entire class versus like being home and going to Weequahic Park and they might have an African Heritage Festival and everybody's out there.
And where everybody's Black.
Yeah, exactly. All the different shades. And so there was always this kind of weird disconnect where, and because I spent so much time in private school, how I talked, how I acted, My mom was an educator, has worked at the Rutgers University, the state university in New Jersey for decades now. She really valued our education, my siblings and I, our education, and that meant that I was too proper for my cousins. I talk white compared to my cousins, and too proper for the kids I grew up around. But I was the token black kid to the kids that I was in school with, and so I just never really quite felt like I belonged in either place. And that led me to really, I think, diving deep into art. I started as a visual artist. I just loved drawing as a kid, and that meant that spent a good amount of time kind of in my own head and in my own thoughts. And I probably would have continued on that path to visual art if it wasn't for a combination of events and circumstances. Where I was in middle school, Usher was hot. Michael Jackson was already doing a thing. And
wait, what era of Usher was happening?
Oh, this is 2000s. Well, by the time I was in middle school, this is still coming off of like 2001, but also like right into Confessions. So like this is Caught Up. This is This is but it's also still like right after the 90s, early 2000s. So like You Don't Have to Call. All of those songs are still hot. I mean, people are still listening to My Way at this point, but watching Usher dance, I think in particular that Glide in the Yeah video, and also this is around the time of like Michael Jackson's like 30th anniversary concert where, in most people's minds, Usher is about to get the torch handed to him by Michael. And I did not think I was a dancer at all. I thought I had two left feet. I thought I was really uncoordinated. I was really shy. That's also why I pursued drawing and comic books and visual art. I was in middle school and there was a dance class, and some of the older black students were working with the drama teacher to have like an after school hip hop dance program. And I decided I was going to give it a try, mostly because there was a girl in the class I liked, but I was also just like, I'm going to give it a try because I used to take the bus with these girls. And so I ended up in the class. I was the only boy in the class for most of the time. And then like my one friend joined because he made a dare that I would quit because I was the only boy after 3 days. And I didn't. So then as losing the bet, he had to join me. I didn't do that much dancing in that first performance, but it did open the door to the possibility of like, actually, you're not as uncoordinated as you think, and maybe you should give this a try.
Yes.
Throughout high school, again, private school, not a lot of students of color, so there would be small affinity groups. Every year, they would have a multicultural day assembly, and basically all of us black kids would get together and put together some hip hop performance. So we did that our freshman year. Our sophomore year, a couple of friends of ours got together and decided like, oh, we should do something else besides just the multicultural day. And the reason why is because America's Best Dance Crew just started.
Yes.
And the Jabberwockies are killing it.
Yes.
But what made it different is that we're from New Jersey, and Jersey club music is like the lifeblood of Newark, New Jersey's local music scene. And for those that don't know, Jersey club music it comes from the traditions of house music. So that means it comes from the traditions of like underground black resistance. I don't want to say black resistance in the like kind of capital R sense, but like counterculture. So house music from Chicago and Miami coming up through Baltimore, that sound, DJ Kashmir, that sound evolved. And when it got to New Jersey, the main DJs in the scene were speeding up the music and chopping up the samples even more. So they would just coming up with this kind of infectious, like pretty fast beat for the time. And so anything and everything could get remixed. Sesame Street could get remixed.
Anything could get it.
Anything could get it with Jersey club music. And it really started in Newark. And so what that meant is that we were like, we're going to do the Jabberwockies thing. We bought the masks. We bought the T-shirts that they had from their first performance, the gloves, the hats.
Oh, my.
And it was just like 4 of us. It was like me and my best friend, and then 2 of our friends that were in a grade ahead of us. And then one of our other friends was the DJ. And so we would be like, well, we're going to do this performance, but we're going to use Jersey club music instead and start from their choreography and then add our own stuff by throwing Jersey club dance moves into it. Because Jersey club was really big about the partnership between the DJ and the dance crew. Like it was a very clear intersection, and Jersey club already had its own vocabulary of dance that it was building. But again, everything is local. You know, maybe Philly's got something coming up at the same time, and they've got their own DJs. But at the time, it's just us, and we love it. We rock with it heavy. And when we brought that to my high school, to this day, I have one of my closest teachers tell me that the performances we put together with that small group were some of the most entertaining and interesting and innovative performances that they had seen in their 20 some odd years at the school. Probably going on 30 now.
Oh, wow.
And that's what really kicked the door open for me as a performing artist, being like, oh, wait a minute. Not only, I still love drawing, and my plan is to become a Marvel comic book artist.
Come on, goals.
Yeah, I know, right? But there's something else here. There's something else here that I'm interested in. And it was still part of that journey of like, where do I belong? Because the irony was, as a Black American who had deep roots in America, which I didn't really know fully at the time, but like I was one of the only Black kids in my group whose family wasn't tied to other parts of the diaspora, whose family wasn't like Caribbean or West African, that like could trace their parents' lineage in the last 3 to 4 generations.
Oh, wow.
Which meant that like I would go down south to Georgia because my family's roots are in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. I'd go down there, I'd come back and up, and they're like, why you sound so country? Why you sound country when you got this accent that you come back with? And it's like, that's because my family, my roots are Black American. And I would make that distinction, not because I'm trying to isolate us, but African American, in my opinion, has evolved to mean folks whose parents immigrated willingly in the last maybe 4 generations, because they can still directly reach back to a grandparent or a great-grandparent or a parent who was born on African soil. Black American, to me, became those whose ancestors were brought here unwillingly as the enslaved, who oftentimes don't have evidence of where they were before the ship took them and dropped them off here. So much of their culture, much of their identity is rooted to the Black American experience, to the journey of Black Americans throughout the 1800s, how our culture and our history evolved. And that also means a lot of the beautiful cultural norms and cultural innovations that we created, but also the particular kind of trauma that became native to how we identify Blackness.
Absolutely. So with all this New Jersey energy, this club dance energy, how did you get to the Bay Area?
Fast forward, I went to college, still pursuing the visual arts degree, but after leaving high school, I had a taste of the dance bug, and I also had been like, I was stepping in high school. I was part of like a youth step team that was modeled off of the black fraternities and sororities, and we would, as high schoolers, go to college step shows and open up for them, and like we would kill it. Our performances were short, like 3 minutes, but we would come in with energy because we were competitive as well. So fast forward, I go to college, I pursue a visual arts degree. I start a dance team while I'm there. Mind you, I have no dance training, no formal dance training. In high school, everything that I did dance related was self motivated by myself and my friends, and what I could learn again from Usher, Michael Jackson, and the beginning of YouTube. But I want to create a space for students like me who have a passion for dance but don't want to do ballet, don't know modern. And with the help of some of my peers that I met during freshman year, we were able to create this dance group. And I called it Elemental Movements because, I was always inspired by the idea of hip hop being like the four pillars of hip hop, the culture being like the four elements, like the four classic elements, because I mean, that was part of the history. But also the idea that we can incorporate anything. And being at a small, again, predominantly white, liberal arts, upper class college, I was also interacting with the dance program as a whole and was able to really create an opportunity and a space for students like myself, particularly students of color that didn't want to go with the classic European way of dancing. During my time in college, I started taking more West African dance classes, but I also studied abroad in Trinidad because as a kid, I always knew that the Caribbean was calling me. Something about Caribbean music and culture, like reggae and dancehall, resonated with me before hip hop did and before Jersey Club did. And so growing up, I listened to it would be like Stevie Wonder and a lot of jazz and soul and R&B, but then it would be like reggae and dancehall and Bob Marley and the Wailers and Jimmy Cliff and stuff like that. So I went to Trinidad because I felt something calling me. And when I landed there, it was the first time in I guess at that point I was 20 years old. First time in 20 years, I felt completely at home. First time in 20 years where I was in a space where everybody was every shade of my family, but nobody ever questioned whether or not I belonged here. Because I was Trinidadian or Bajan to them until I opened my mouth. And even still being there, they were like, when you say certain words, it was important to me that what they say to me, I say back to them. So I started speaking the way they did, not to like put on an accent or mimic them, but that was their word. That was their language for that thing. And so that experience transformed me for a number of reasons. One, it was part of a study abroad program that was about understanding not just going to Carnival and it being a vacation, it being fun in the sun, but the entire class was modeled around the culture and the history of Carnival. It was called Carnival Arts and Cultural Performance. It was a very innovative program through my college with the University of the West Indies, and it was about making the study of Carnival about like the political, the economic, the historical, all of the layers through which Carnival as an industry helps to drive and uplift this entire community, and also seeing the ways that is a parallel narrative to the rest of the Caribbean, whether it's Cuba, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Kitts, St. Vincent, that the story of the Caribbean islands is, again, a parallel to the story of Black people. And all of that shifted the narrative to what I, as an artist, because I always knew I wanted to be an artist, but how and why I was going to do that changed.
Right.
I had come to California several times prior to when I finally got here in 2014. And I came out here in 2007 for a summer program at UC Santa Cruz that was about writing. I was like, I like this. This was cool. I came out here in 2009 to look at colleges before I even started. I got out here, looked at a couple schools, was like, I'm not ready to be 3,000 miles away at 18 years old. Then in 2013, as I came back from Trinidad, it was time for me to start looking at where was I going to go next for college. Where was I going to go to next after college? I was like, it's time to go to California. I only applied to one grad school. I got in. And as soon as I graduated in 2014, I moved out here.
Yes. Come on, faith and believe with the one. Said, that's it. That's me. That's me right there.
I did not have a plan. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to continue pursuing art. And so I came out here to study illustration. Again, this thing about being a Marvel comic book artist was still in my mind. And dance wasn't really, even though I'd had this really transformative experience, it was more so like, I'll do the visual arts thing so that I can then start making my own graphic novel that details and allows me to combine all those experiences. And that was actually my senior thesis project, was like a multimedia story around dance, visual art, spoken word that tells my story, but also the story of my friends and all of the dope, diverse communities that I had interacted with.
Absolutely. So that trip to Trinidad, entering the world of Carnival, how did that transform into you becoming now the artistic director of this fusion collective? And tell us the name of it.
So I have a company, Myles Beyond Entertainment, that it operates as the umbrella for the various creative projects that I do. And the dance collective that I am currently leading is called Mas Effects Dance. And Mas Effects Dance is a combination of the word mas, which is the Trini word to play mas, to participate in the masquerade, in the carnival, and then FX, because my career at this point in my background as a professional is actually as an events professional. And so FX is the shorthand for sound effects, visual effects in the industry. And so the idea was that we were taking the experience of playing mas, which is spiritual, it's entertaining, it's cultural, it's historical, but it's also very joyful and very in the moment, but also bringing that sense of it's a production. And the carnival creative sector understands that it is a production that connects to every element of what it means to be creative. So that's digital media, that's event promotion, that's graphic design, that's dance, that's music, that's lighting, that's sound. It's an experience. And so Mas Effects, for the last, what's 2023 now? For the last 8 years, when I first moved to the Bay Area, like I said, I didn't do any dance. I focused only on visual art. After a year and a half, I had been living in San Francisco. I'd had enough. I needed a break from grad school. I moved to Oakland, and a relative of mine recommended, hey, there's this guy I've worked with, really dope. I think, and she knew I had interest in background in dance and visual art and all this stuff. She's like, I think he might be a good person to connect with. And she introduced me to Theo Williams, the head of Samba
King
Funk.
Theo.
Yes.
Shout out to King Theo.
Yes. And she was like, I had just moved to Oakland maybe 2 or 3 weeks into August of 2015. She was like, you should go check this out. I reached out to him, was like, hey, my family member of mine recommended you. I'm coming to one of the classes. He responded back, like, that's dope. See you there. I came in. I took the class at the Malanga Center, August, 20th, I think it was. It was a Sunday, Samba church. And immediately I was hooked. Like I think that Thursday is the first time I started showing up to rehearsal to be part of the group. From 2015 to 2019, primarily, I was one of the main, principal dancers on the performance team. I was I was also helping Theo because I was behind the scenes doing graphic design. I was in it. And being in it also meant that I was able to participate in Carnival in San Francisco and Carnival in Oakland. And so that kept the fire alive for like the carnival experience. And that's actually what brought me to Samba Funk, was like, not only were we doing carnival, not only were the classes dope, they had the live drums. Theo was talking about the integrated histories of the diaspora because he was teaching Brazilian dance, but also during carnival season, we were doing Caribbean dance, and he would bring in guest artists, but we were also doing hip hop and stepping. So every element of my being as an artist was being fed through the work we were doing. And on top of that, he was also partnering with one of the founding members of Samba Funk, who was a dope musical artist in his own right, but also an illustrator. And Samba Funk was putting out illustrated narratives before each carnival season that would tell the story of the theme. So everything in me was just on fire by being around this hotbed of creativity and talent. And yeah, for several years up until 2019, we were doing carnival. I was performing. I competed in Carnival San Francisco's King and Queen competition. The first year, and again, the first year, I didn't even really have a costume. I wasn't really prepared for what it meant to compete. I just wanted to bring myself to the front and share what that carnival culture meant to me. So it had Jersey Club in there. There was some salsa. There was some samba. There was definitely Caribbean music. I was just like, I'm just going to represent for what it means, what carnival means to me, and what that spirit and that energy has been for me. And over these years, I think up until 2016, I had been going back to Trinidad regularly. Around carnival season, and I had mentors and friends and that I was connected with. Fast forward, so 2020 hits. We don't do carnival, but we do put together like a virtual performance. At the beginning of 2020, I had realized that as much as I loved being a part of Samba Funk, I was starting to feel a push to create more of my own original content, because being a dance captain and being in charge of my own dance group in college, I got a lot of practice choreographing, and I hadn't been doing that in a while, but I had been teaching to youth at East Bay Center for the Performing Arts in Richmond. I'd been teaching down in San Jose for a little while. So that desire to create my own content was coming back, and I wanted to do it in a space that like worked parallel to the vision of Samba Funk, but didn't necessarily like fully intersect, because Samba Funk was much more rooted, because of Samba Funk, in Brazilian, African Brazilian dance, and like even Oakland hip hop and funk.
Right.
My thing was Caribbean and Afro Caribbean dance and East Coast house and Jersey Club. So Mass Effects was my opportunity to begin creating a space, mostly for myself, but also a collective. And the reason why I wanted it to be a collective and not a company is because over the last 8 years, I'd worked with so many talented artists. But the biggest thing that I realized is like we didn't all have the skills to be successful as individual artists. So pooling our resources was important to me, to where we could share with each other, but also as a collective, everybody gets credit and paid for their intellectual property. And that's especially invaluable to me as a Black artist. As a collective, I don't own your time. I create content, we create material, we go out and perform in the community, we teach workshops, whatever we do, but we all uplift and support each other, and everybody can still be their own artist, be their own creative, be their own business, essentially.
Absolutely.
And so it was really important to have that clarity as an economic structure, but also as a creative collaborative space.
Yeah, you got to have that shared leadership sometimes. And it does work out for some groups. It's working out for you right now, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. We've really been able to grow tremendously just in the opportunities that we've gotten to perform. And I've been able to integrate the work that I do under Myles Beyond Entertainment, because I started both in 2020. I realized that during the pandemic, as an event professional, there was a need for somebody that understood how to produce virtual events. And I leveraged that to make money as Myles Beyond Entertainment, as a video editor, as an event producer, that I would then take the funds, the profits, the revenue that was generated from this very particular profession to fuel and support the arts that I was doing with Mass Effects. And so that has been a kind of a cycle that feeds, that allows me not only to support myself, but also support the artists that I'm working with, to build a website, to build platforms, to develop our skills as marketers, and also to do more research about how to be intentional about this experience of Carnival. Because when I teach classes, when I'm not in class, when I'm in class, I'm constantly talking about Carnival is not just the fete. It's not just the party. It's not just the glamour, the glitz, the beads, the bikinis, the thongs. It's not just that. It's not just naked,
Right.
beautiful people on a road.
Not just booty shorts and
It's not
feathers.
exactly. And
Bungee
Theo
shorts.
talks about that exactly. Theo talks about that a lot in Samba Funk as well, being very intentional about creating Carnival costumes that don't just showcase, you know, I don't know if I can be PG, but I would say TNA, you know, and for me, it's important that we talk about why is that? Where did this tradition come from? What is traditional Mas versus pretty Mas? Where do those intersections, and why is pretty Mas still a form of resistance through joy? That's not to take away, you know, there are some Carnival purists, and because didn't grow up in that tradition, I wouldn't try to even pretend like I'm a Carnival purist. I'm not. But it's important to me that for the sake of all of our individual and collective liberation, all of us to be uplifted, to recognize that joy is one of the most powerful tools of liberation against oppression that we as a people have in our arsenal. Because joy is the thing that gives us resilience to continue to persevere. Joy was the thing that when they told us we couldn't play our drums, that led us to innovate other ways to create the sound that called our people home. The steel pan was created in an act of resistance, but also for the sake of joy. And so to me, that is the critical element of everything that I do as an artist. I'm not here to be Alvin Ailey. I have immense gratitude for Alvin Ailey. I have immense gratitude and reverence for the work that Alvin Ailey, Catherine Dunham, that they did to create these spaces and to create this vocabulary to integrate the traditional dance world, or I would say the academic, the rigorous, the theater dance world with our steeped cultural traditions. It's important that we have that. But that's not who I am. That's not the journey I came on. I came from Jersey Club. I came from being in the club and everybody's like in the cypher battling. You know, Jersey, where everybody's backing it up on each other to like 150 BPMs. It's like crazy. Like I came from that energy of like the party. And the party is still a form of resistance as long as we are doing the things for our community, in our community, and with our community to uplift our community. It's not enough just to go out and party and dance and get drunk and then be belligerent if you're not doing the work on yourself to elevate yourself for the sake of yourself and each other. And so that's what Mass Effects has meant to me. That is why it's important that I do this work. That's why it's important that I've continued to grow and build up myself, because I've been able to lead by example, not because I wanted to be a leader, but because I just wanted a space for myself, and people liked what I had to say. It's like if people like the message, they like the vibe, they like the energy, then that means that what's working for me works for others. I should continue doing it and continue to refine the process.
Absolutely. Joy as resistance. Thank you so much, Ezra, for sharing with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time and the space for me and allowing me to be one of the many dope people you've invited to this platform.
Yes, it's so exciting to hear about, your journey from New Jersey to here in the Bay Area. your exploration into Caribbean dance and creating this event production company, where can the people find you?
You can find me primarily on Instagram at Ezra Myles. That's Ezra, M as in Mike, Yles. You can find me at Mas Effects Dance, M as in Mike, ASFX DANCE. And you can find me at milesbeyond.com. So again, M as in Mike, Yles, B as in boy, EYON, D as in dog.com. These are all platforms that I'll be using to post content, educational content. I teach dance classes every Saturday, and I'll be performing all over the Bay Area, but you can definitely check me out on Instagram and at our website, milesbeyond.com.
So y'all check them out and let me know if y'all gonna make it down to the carnival, okay?
Yeah, come through.
Thank all of you out there for listening and supporting another season. This has been another episode of The Black Landscape, where Black excellence is always trending.